Hi there, in today's demonstration I'm going to look at how to format dates and times, how we can get the first day of the month, the last day of the month, all the Fridays, the first Friday, the second Friday, maybe the next Friday, lots of different scenarios using dates and times, and also a new expression that's just been released in Power Automate, parse date time, that might help you out the next time you see the error message about ISO 8601. So if that's something that interests you, please make sure you watch on, but before you do, please click the like and subscribe, and let's jump into that demonstration. So the first thing I want to cover before I get really started into the demonstration is an example of one of the most common errors you'll see when manipulating date-time strings. And that's an error message you'll get about the string not being in an ISO 8601 format. So if I put an example date in here, as it just happens to be the 27th of February 2022, and if I was to go and create another compose action to format that date-time string, we'll just rename this to format date-time string, and I'm literally going to use the expression format date-time based on that dynamic value that we have from our compose here, and I'm going to convert it into a different format. So currently it was in the date, month, year. I would just like to get the year, so I'm going to put in the 4 Ys. Now if I hit OK, you'd expect it to be able to return the year that we're currently in, which is 2022, but I will get an error message to say that the date is not in the ISO 8601 format. And if we hit the done there, we can see now the error message on screen of exactly that. It's not in the ISO 8601. So what does that mean? Well, the ISO 8601 format is the year, month, day. So the year must be first, then we must have the month, then we must have the day. But of course I'm in the UK, so my format is different. I go for day, month, year. So how can I convert that date time string into the ISO 8601? Well, previously you'd have to do all sorts of string expressions to split this and repurpose the data. Just within the last week, there's a new expression that I thought I'd share with you before I get into the nitty-gritty of this demonstration, and it's called parse date time. So all we need to do is insert parse date time, an open bracket around the output from our compose, and then we can insert the locale. So in this case, mine is based on ENGB because I'm in Great Britain and I go for that locale format. I can put a closing bracket and then keep everything else as is, update that expression, and if we go and test it, we will get a valid outcome and we'll see just the year as expected. So we can see now it's outputted 2022. So you'll notice at the beginning of my flow I have a scope, and the reason for that is as I move through the demonstration I'm just going to drag those previously created compose actions into the scope so they're hidden and out of the way for the next part. And the first thing I really want to do is to show you how you can format the current date time. Now I'm going to create a compose. I'm a great fan of compose actions, and the reason I use compose instead of variable is because compose is like a throwaway variable. It's something that you can use for temporary storage. You can't update it like you can with a variable, but really it's the default for me. I always go for a compose because generally I'm not updating what I'm storing in my flow as I work through. So we're going to do a format date time here, and into the expression builder I will type in format date time, and that's going to be on UTC now, which again, because I'm in the UK, for me is local time, but I'll show you next how we can change that locale to something different. And I'm going to go for the UK format of DD month, month, year, year, year. And you'll notice that the month is in capital M's, minutes are in lowercase m, so if you want the minutes to appear in this string, you could, for instance, put in your lowercase r, h's, sorry, and lowercase m's if you wanted the hours and the minutes. Equally, if you want this to be just a single digit for months 1 to 9, you can put a percentage in front of it. And if you want to have the string values, you can put 3 m's for the shortened string or 4 m's for the longer string, and that works as well for the days as well, and you'll see that throughout the demonstration. So I'm going to stick with two M's, two uppercase M's, and that will give me the digits from 0, 1 all the way through to 12. And if we go ahead and hit OK, we can go ahead and test that and just check to see what the output looks like. So we can see there from our compose action, we now have the 27th of February 2022, and we have the date time, which is 12:18 where I am right now. Now what happens if you're not in UTC? How can we convert this into a different locale? Well, that's when we can use the convert time zone expression. And that's when I'm going to open up another compose action, and we will just rename this to Hawaiian, if I can spell Hawaii time, Hawaiian time. And I will go into the expression builder and choose the convert time zone, which you can see is the second one there. Now convert time zone will take a date time, so in this case I'm going to use again UTC now, and it will convert it from the time zone of the current date time that you provided to a new time zone. And in order to get those time zones, I have a page open here which has the default time zone for me, which I'll copy in to the starting or the default time that this has come from. And then if I go back, I'm going to pick out the Hawaiian standard time and paste that in as our second parameter and hit OK, and we will get the current time in Hawaii, which is 10 hours difference from where we are right now, so it's 2:20 in the morning. And if we have a quick look at that, you can see that the time here is 2:20 in the morning, whereas where we are right now, it's 12:20. So I'll move these two out of the way into my compose, and we'll move on to the next demonstration, which is all about getting the start of the month. And the way that we get the start of the month is to use an expression start of month. Again, I'll rename this to start of month. And we have an expression here, start of month. And all we have to do is provide a date time string. So again, I can use that UTC now, and this will get me the start of this month, which will be the 1st of February. And you might think that's relatively straightforward, but the start of the month will come in very useful because we don't have an end of the month, and we'll use that later on. So we can see we have returned the 1st of February 2022, and now we have to ask ourselves the question, what if we want to get the nth day of the month? Well, we can add days onto the start of the month. And if I go into my edit again, into compose, we have the ability to add days, and we'll call this add n days. Into our expression builder, we have add days, and we can take our date timestamp. So I'm going to start with our start of the month expression that I've created earlier, and I'm going to add on 6 days so that I can get the 7th day of the month. Hit OK, go with the test, and so what we're expecting now is the 7th of February by return. Now, if we look at that expression now, you can see that we have the 7th of February. So the next thing I'm going to do is to show you how we can calculate the last day of this month. And the logic for this one is that we'll take the start of the month, we'll add a month onto that date, so we've got the 1st of next month, and then we'll simply take away a single day. So I'll just go ahead and rename this compose action. We'll go into the expression builder, and the first expression I want to use is add to time. So we're going to take the start of the month as the initial value here. We're going to add a 1 in the form of a month onto the start of the month. So that'll give us the start of next month. And then if I jump back to the beginning of the expression we've got here, I'm going to add days, an open bracket, jump to the end, a single comma, and then we're going to put, rather than a positive, a negative, because we want to subtract a day from the start of next month to give us the end of this month. So I'll go ahead and save that and test it. And because we're currently working in February, I should retrieve the 28th of February as the end result. Now, what if I wanted to get 5 o'clock on the 28th of February? Currently, we're returning midnight, which is the default because I haven't specified a time, but I'd actually like it to be 5 o'clock. And you might be constructing a date time expression for the end of a day. You want to get a particular day and you want to make it 5 o'clock each time or any other time. So if I create another compose action, and I have the ability to add hours. So we'll just rename this to a date time at 1700 hours. And we can use the expression add hours onto our last day of the month. And we're just looking to add 17. So you can see I have 17. If I hit OK, go ahead and test, we should now get the last day of the month at 5 PM in my case. And there we go. We can see that the date time now has 5 o'clock. So I'm just going to move those additional compose actions into my scope to do a little tidy up, and then I'll move on to my next set of demonstrations. Now I will make this flow available to download, so if it's something you want to be able to play out yourself, you can download this later on and have a go. So next I'd like to demonstrate how we can get the next particular date of a particular day based on today's date. So if you're looking for the next Wednesday or the next Friday, then I'm going to demonstrate two different techniques, one involving a select and a filter action, and another involving an expression with a compose that's been shared with me via the community. So the first solution is to use the select, and with the select what we're going to do is we're going to build an array of the next 7 days. And in order to do that, we need to use a range expression. And so range will take a starting point, so we'll start from the number 0, and it will run in a sequence. So if we give it a range of 7, it will run from 0 all the way through to 6. And we're going to use that array of numbers from 0 to 6 to add on to today's date. So get each of the days sequentially using this select action. Now, one of the sort of caveats of building this solution is if today is a Sunday and you don't want this Sunday, you in fact want next Sunday, then what you can do is you can change the starting value. Rather than being 0, you would add a 1, so that you always add 1 onto your today's date. Then you'll retrieve the next Sunday if today was, for instance, Sunday, or the next Thursday if today was Thursday. So I'm going to stick with the 0 and the 7, which will retrieve Saturday if I put in Saturday. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. And then what I'm going to do with this array is I'm going to retrieve both the date and the day of the week. And all will become clear in a minute. So with the date expression, what we're looking to do is we're wanting to add a series of days onto the date, so UTC now. Now, of course, this could be a date in the future if you want to get the next Saturday after a particular date, for instance. And then item. An item is each of those values within that range that we've created. So we're adding on a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, all the way through to 6. And that will give us our next 7 days. Once I've achieved that, I'm then going to build pretty much the same expression again, but this time round I'm going to format it. So we're going to again use add days, and we are going to take UTC now in my case, and item, because again we want to add on the 0, 1, 2, but this time I'm going to use formatting, so in single quotes, 4Ds, and that will return the string value for the day of the week, so the Monday, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now if I go ahead and hit OK, that is my select action set up for this. Then I can go and use the filter array action, and I can call this filter array for specific day, And the from is based on the output from the next 7 days. And we're looking to filter the day. So we will have to build an expression here into the expression builder and type in item, open close brackets, and then question mark, square brackets, single quotes, and day. And so that will compare the day key against whatever string we put in here. And I'd like to get the next Wednesday. So there we go, I'll put in Wednesday, and that will now filter out this next 7 days and get me the next Wednesday. Now, in order for me to retrieve that response, I need a final compose action, and we will call this the next day of week. And in order to get that single value that's been returned, because it is an array, we need to build out another expression, and we can use first, and we can retrieve the filter array here, and then after the closing bracket for first, we can put in our question mark, our square bracket, single quotes, and we want to retrieve the date. And that will then allow us to see the date that we've created in this array based on the day equaling the value Wednesday. Of course, you can change that to any day of the week that you require. And of course, you can modify that range so that if you didn't want the Saturday to be returned, if today was Saturday, then you can simply change that range to 1. So if we bring up the community example here from a chap called Tyler, you can see here he's got a couple of expressions that will demonstrate how you can achieve the same thing. So if this is something that interests you, you want to give a go yourself as an expression, then feel free to read over this article, and I will share that link in my description. But I'll go ahead and implement that on my flow too. So we've got a side-by-side example. So I'll go ahead and create a parallel branch. And for this solution, I need a compose action. And based on the article, I needed a day of the week integer. And that was based on Monday to Friday being 1 to 7. And because I went for Wednesday in my example here, I'll put in the number 3 so we can get also the next Wednesday. So if I go ahead now and add a second compose action, and I'll rename that to next day of the week, day of week version 2. And I already have the expression saved, so I'm just going to go and paste that in. And of course, that's all available on the article. So we can see both solutions side by side. On the left, we have a select action that will get us the next 7 days. We can filter on a specific day using the strings for the days of the week, and then compose the next day of the week using the first expression. On the right-hand side, we could use an integer from 1 to 7, and then the expression that's been shared with us via the community post that the chap Tyler has done for us. Now I'm going to go ahead and test. I'm expecting to retrieve the next Wednesday for both of them. Today is the 27th of February. So the next Wednesday is the 2nd of March, which we can see we've retrieved there on our solution on the left, but also on version 2, also retrieved the 2nd of March. Now just to quickly explain the solution, you can see here we have a range from 0 to 6. We have all the dates for the next 7 days. And then we have filtered based on equaling Wednesday, which was retrieved the only Wednesday in that 7-day period. And then of course we retrieved the date key value. On the right hand side, we have an integer from 1 to 7, and using that expression and logic, we're able to retrieve the same date. Okay, so next thing I'd like to do is show you how we can get a list of days within the whole month. So if we have 28 days in the month, what day is every single day of the month? Is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday? And by creating an array of these values, we can then filter them and retrieve all the Mondays, and then potentially retrieve the first Monday or the third Monday. So I'm going to use a select action this time, and a select is like a super efficient way of using an apply to each statement basically on a variable. So I'm doing everything in one action and looping through all the data within an array. And my array is going to be based on the days of the month. And for that, I'm going to use the range expression. So the range will start from a number. In my case, I want to start from a 0, and then it will have a number for the sequence. So if I wanted the numbers 0 to 4, the range would be based on the number 5, because I want it to run 5 times. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I want it to run on the number of days. So we already have an expression that will get us the last day of the month, and from that I can use format date time. So if I use format date time, and if I choose the last day of the month, let's see if I can find it. So there's our last day of the month. And as an output from that last day of the month, I want to get the days, which is lowercase d's. Now that'll give me a string, and range won't work off of a string, it'll need an integer. So again, I can wrap format date time in int, and make sure I put the closing bracket, and when I save that, that'll now give me a range from 0 to 27, because there are 28 days in February. And obviously that's dynamic, so when we go to a different month, it'll run from 0 to 31 or 0 to 30, depending on how many days in that month. Then for our map, what I'm looking to retrieve is the day of the year, which might be useful for accountants if they're looking to get a specific day, like the 53rd day of the year, and then the day as in if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And what we're looking to do now is we're going to add a number of days onto the start of the month based on our range. So our range starts from 0, and what we're going to do here is we're going to use add days onto the start of the month dynamic value that I created earlier. So there's my start of the month, and we're going to add on item. So item is each of the individual objects from this range from 0. The first one is going to be 0, so we're going to add 0 days onto our first day of the month, and then 1 onto the next onto the day of the month, 2, 3, so on. So this will loop through all the data and get every single day of the month. Now I'm going to copy this expression because I'm going to use it in the next two. This expression is going to be based on day of the year, and that's where we're going to get day of the year rather than day of the week. And that's when we're going to be able to return if it's the 53rd, 54th, etc. day. So that's very handy for those that work in finance. And then this one here is going to be based on the day. So I'm going to use format date time. We are going to again insert the current day and then put in a comma, and we want to return the string for the day of that particular date. So I'm going to use 4Ds, which will return the full string for the day of that week. If I use 3Ds, I would get, for instance, mun or chew or wed, and potentially in different languages if you change the locale. So I'm going to hit OK. And we'll go ahead and test and see what that looks like in the form of an array, and then we can explore what's possible with this array of data that we've just created. So here's our select. We can see that the input is based on the range of 0 through to 27, and if I expand the output here on the right hand side, you can see that we have our dates running from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, etc. We have the day of the year, so the 32nd, 33rd, 34th, and we have our days, so the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And the first thing I'd like to demonstrate is how can we get the 1st and 3rd, we'll go for Friday. And so what I want to do here, if I go back into edit, is I'm going to use the filter array. And that filter array will be based on this select. And then what we're looking to do is filter based on our day key. So if I go into choose value, I'll need to type in an expression based on item, question mark, open close bracket, single quotes, and it's based on day because that's what we've called that key for our day. I hit OK. Let's just try that again. Put my closed bracket. There we go. And I'm looking to retrieve all the Fridays. So I'm going to go through this whole array of all the dates and filter based on all the Fridays. And then I said I wanted to get the 1st and the 3rd Fridays, so I'm going to add 2 compose actions here for the 1st Friday, and I will create an expression for that. So if you're familiar with the integer values of an array. We're going to get an array of all the Fridays, potentially 4 Fridays, I think in this scenario. I want to get the first and the third, so we can call them by integer values, which is 0 and 2, because our integer values start from 2, so we've got 0, 1, 2. And we need to create an expression. So I'm going to put in a 1 there, and that will allow me to select the filter array, and then I can delete the 1 and put in a question mark, square brackets, single quotes, and I'm looking to get, I say single quotes, take the single quotes out, 0, because of course I'm looking to get that first object, which will give us our first date. If I want to retrieve that date, I can put in a question mark, single quotes, and put in date, because that's what I've called the key value within my select, is date. I'm going to copy that expression too and say OK. I'm going to create a second compose so I can get the third Friday of the month. And we'll go with third Friday. Back into my expression builder, I can paste that in, and I can change this integer value to a 2 rather than a 0, and that will now retrieve me the first and the third Friday. So we'll just go ahead and test that, save and test, and see what the outcome looks like. So if we look at the filter array, first of all, we've taken the array of all the dates. We've filtered based on the day equaling Friday, and we can see we've got the 4 Fridays in there. And we can also see that the 4th and the 18th are the first and the third. And if I go and have a look at these two composes, I have the 4th as our first Friday, and I have the 18th as our third Friday. So I'm just going to go and shift those up into our scope again and have a look at another example where I might want to remove all those weekends from our select, because ultimately I would like to get all the weekdays. And the way that I'm going to do that is create an array of a Saturday and Sunday string. So we're going to call this compose, and it's our weekends. And we'll create an open and close square brackets, and I'll type in Saturday, comma, and then Sunday. And then we're going to use another filter array, and that filter array is going to remove weekends. And the great thing about this possibility is if we remove the weekends, we can actually then go and get, for instance, the 10th working day of a month. And so our input to this filter array will be based on our select. So if we just go and hunt out the select there. And what we want to do is we want to see if our compose weekends, which are Saturday and Sunday, does not contain the day from our select. So we're going to type in the expression item, open, close square brackets, put in the day in single quotes, say OK, and that will of course remove the Saturdays and Sundays from our original select that we created. Now I mentioned that I would like to get potentially the 10th day, which is the 10th working day of the month. I can do that in a very similar way to getting the first and the third Friday. So if I call this the 10th working day, and what I'm looking to do is, again, I'll put the 1 in first because there's a cheeky way of getting our filter array expression in. Remove that 1, put in a question mark, and we're going to look to get the 10th object, which happens to be the 9th, and I'm going to retrieve that date, which I'll put there in the single quotes in the square brackets, and say OK to that. So we've composed an array of strings for Saturday and Sunday. We've used that to exclude them from our original select, and then we've created an expression here that will retrieve the 10th object from that filter array, which will be our 10th working day of February. So I'll hit the test button, and if we have a look at our filter array, we can see we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday as inputs. If we look at the outputs, you can see we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and back to Monday again. So the Saturdays and Sundays are definitely being removed. And if we look at the 10th working day of the week, we have the 14th of February, which is all based on the Saturdays and Sundays being removed. So hopefully that's something you've thoroughly enjoyed. That's me covered all my examples that I was looking to do with dates and times. Lots to learn there, how to use the select and the filter, and building out loads of different expressions. If that's something you've enjoyed, or if you've got another idea or another problem with dates, make sure you leave a comment below, or equally get in contact with me via social media. But thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Cheers.